o'clock, top of the hour right now. Today is Tuesday. It is the 25th of August, 2020. This afternoon, news desk with Jeffrey Smith. Of course, once again, I want to welcome everybody back to the show today. We are getting ready to get into the city of Gary, the Gary Community School Show. That's an opportunity I get twice a month to hang out with Dr. Paige and get to find out what's going on in the Gary Community School District. And of course, they've been doing a lot of good stuff over the years, and I've had the pleasure, the opportunity to sit and talk with the emergency managers. I love talking with Dr. Paige. She's in studio right now. So with that being said, happy Tuesday.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing all right. What's been going on?
Well, I just want to remind you and the listeners that I'm now the manager of the Gary Community Schools, no longer emergency.
I like
manager.
that. We dropped that part. You're the manager.
Part, right.
Yeah.
It's no longer an emergency. We're over the cliff and moving on to greener pastures.
Now, explain what that means for people, because there was a DUAP meeting, and you did get the validation, and congratulations. And so what does that mean with the title? And are we out of the woods? Let people know what that means.
Yeah, so we're definitely on the right path. We are definitely headed towards being out of the woods as far as getting towards local control.
Yeah.
And so obviously when DUAB first came in and so did MGT, there was an emergency as far as even how to make payroll and how to pay our bills, and that's quite different than the arena that we're in today. I find it very refreshing actually that the contract that we that was discussed focused mostly on academics, because that to me shows that we've made a lot of progress. We're not focusing on the financial so much of the district, that we now have space to talk about academic improvements, which is what we should be talking about. So I'll talk about that all day long, I told them. So that's a good thing, and to me that denotes progress.
I agree. Here comes our guest, one of my guys. He's coming in here now. One of my favorite dudes. He's masked up. He's coming in here. We'll get him set up, Pastor Gardner. Let me ask you about, what are we, 2-3 weeks in?
Yes.
Okay. How's it going?
It's going well. It's going well. We've got lots of kids who have registered and received their Chromebooks, and who are actively engaged in their instruction thus far with their teachers. We're doing synchronous instruction Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays with the teachers, and the teachers have just done an absolutely phenomenal job with that. And then they have asynchronous instruction Thursdays and Fridays. We do still have families who are still registering, however, and we need them to come in and get registered so that they can get their Chromebooks and get moving, because we are, as you mentioned, about 2 weeks into school. So we've got students that still need to come in and register. So we are calling them and reminding them. I drove by a couple schools today where there's still lines out the door of families enrolling, but we need them to come in and get moving so we get those kids caught up.
Now let me ask you this. I know you're plugged in and you pay attention. I think about you every time I'm looking at this stuff or doing the news. When we see, Valparaiso, two students in the middle school, excuse me, with COVID, and you're hearing, it's inevitable, obviously, because it's just, my position is, obviously you just can't control where everybody goes once they leave there, unless you just do the bubble like they do in the NBA, where you put everybody, teachers, student, staff on one campus and say, you don't leave here, we'll send your meals in. You're going to get the risk of somebody coming in with COVID. What are the protocols set up in the Gary Community Schools? How are you dealing with it?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. It's everywhere. We're doing our very best, and again, this is unprecedented times. So we've got extra cleaning going on. All the buildings get fogged every other Friday.
Yeah.
The fogging lasts for 14 days, but we're doing it on an every other 10-day rotation.
Nice.
And we've increased the amount of cleaning that's happening with our contracted services, and as well as our in-house services. The classroom teachers have received, masks, as well as the CTE students that will be coming in, that type of stuff. But you're right. We're doing our best, but you can't. It's only good for that moment in time.
Exactly. And so I want to just go over here and say we got a guest that's coming into the show. Very distinguished gentleman, always dapper. Let me cut your mic on because I like to hear you talk. We're talking with Pastor Gardner. That's my man. What's going on with you, sir?
Oh, things are going well. I'm excited about where we are and where we're headed. I was overjoyed that the Baptist Ministers Conference at Gary and Vicinity came out in full and unanimous support for the referendum. Dr. McNulty and members of our staff came to one of our meetings and literally sat down and point by point went over what we were trying to accomplish, gave us an opportunity for input, and at the end of the day, we didn't think that the request was for enough.
Right.
And so through some other discussion and compromise, we added another 4 cents to it over the length of the.
Oh, so you're the one who got that extra 4 cents.
Well, the Baptist Ministers Conference at Gary Vicinity asked for it. Actually, we asked for a whole lot more.
Right.
But discussion.
Right.
Said this is what we can do, and this is what makes sense. And this is what we believe the citizens will support.
Right.
And so over the length of the referendum, that extra 4 cents comes between 17 to 19 million dollars, depending on how the figures fall. That can be used to upgrade facilities, and not just physical in terms of a pool or a gymnasium,
right,
but also academic upgrades, microscopes, refurbishing science labs, doing some things out at Ivy Tech, the Career Center,
right,
to equip it to get back into and enhance technology training and craft training. So we're in favor of it.
Now let me ask you this, Pastor, because you and I've gotten to know you in a number of years now, and you know I absolutely respect you. Now on the outside, there are people out there that are cynical when they heard the Baptist preachers co-signed on this, and you're a guy that like I said, I absolutely have respect for you. I know what you do. You're on the PARD board. You've gotten involved in the community. You've got a great church. And you and I have actually sat and shot the breeze, and we talked about Black Hog, and we talked about just the whole thing. I really respect you, and so I think that it says something. If it was just maybe just the pastors, I might be a little cynical about why they kind of endorsed it or not. But I want you to tell people why you did, because I want people to understand that what I'm saying is I know you're a man of like integrity, and I think in your heart of hearts, if you thought that this was negative, you wouldn't have co-signed on it at all.
Right. Well, here's where, for me, the rubber meets the road.
Yeah.
Let me give you a little background.
Okay.
I'm a graduate. I'm a graduate of Emerson High School.
Right.
All of my children are graduates of the Gary Community School Corporation.
Yeah.
My oldest daughter she's a level 5 teacher and was Tennessee Women's Track Coach of the Year for 2018. My middle daughter is a PhD candidate at the University of Maryland, Baltimore College. She was Indiana State champion in track and field and broke every record.
You got good genes.
That DePaul University had in her event. And then my youngest daughter also is a teacher, and she's just started working on her master's degree. Her favorite thing to do is her son. Yeah. But she just started working on her master's degree. And so as I looked at this, and there are a lot of components to it. You have the advisory board component and how they feel. You've got some other political components and their point of view or how they feel. But after distilling all of that down, the question is, what can we do for the children? Mm-hmm. What can we do for the children? Is it possible through the giving of a few cents a day? Is it possible to improve the culture for learning within the confines of the Gary Community School Corporation? And I absolutely believe that it is. Yeah. And so even in my discussions with individuals who are on the advisory board or serving in other political positions, nobody was talking about the kids.
No, exactly.
And there's nothing more important than the children. Right. So I'm looking forward to working in a way that would improve and raise the culture for learning and achievement within our public school system, and providing a facility that they can be proud of. Yeah. And the technology and other instruments that they need to achieve are an important component of that, and that's part of what we're trying to do with the referendum.
Well said very much. And so, Dr. Paige, so when you go out and you get these community leaders and they're coming to you, and I'm sure they've got their questions ready, and they want to know about, how's this affecting the community? I'm hearing all these kind of things. what do you tell them, and how comforting is it when you do get people, like I said, this guy sitting over here, and I'm not just blowing it, just because he's here. He has a lot of integrity. That's one of the things I knew when I first met him. So when you do get guys that are people that are asking you real in-depth questions, you know that it comes from their heart, and then you give, what kind of answers do you give them, and when they come over to your side, how important is that?
It's hugely important, and I welcome all and any questions because I want to make sure that people are feeling comfortable and secure with the decision that they're going to need to make in November.
Right.
I want to do nothing but be transparent and give them the facts because there's all sorts of untruths being said right now. And so all I can do is tell them the facts, tell them where the dollar is going to go and what it's for. And that's all of it going to the kids and to our facilities and to making our curriculum stronger so that our kids can achieve and be competitive with our neighboring districts and pay our teachers. That I've been talking about. Our teachers haven't had a raise in 12 years. We need to be able to pay our teachers so that we can keep our teachers, recruit teachers, and have a good quality education for the students here. They deserve it, and I'm going to fight for that. And I'm welcome to talk to any group that wants me to come and meet with them at any platform, anytime.
Go ahead. You wanted to say? No, okay. Well, yeah, we're talking with Dr. Paige McNulty she is the new manager of the Gary Community School Corporation. Of course, we've got Mr. Gardner, Pastor Gardner. He is here in support of the referendum. That is going to be on the ballot November 3rd or 5th. When's the election? I talk about it all the time.
November 3rd.
Yeah, there you go. And of course, it's a public question, and it is going to determine, one can say, the life or death of the Gary Community School Corporation going forward. And I think that's the urgency that you talked about, isn't it, Pastor Gardner?
Yes, absolutely. Now is the time.
Yeah.
Now is the time, and we have to do this for ourselves.
Yes.
No one's coming to fix it.
Thank you.
There's no cavalry coming. At some point, we have to strap up our boots and say, you know what? Here is something I can do. Mm-hmm. I can have an impact by giving a few cents a day.
Yeah. To
the future of public education in the city of Gary.
Yeah. And and I was talking with the mayor. We do a show every Friday here, and I think that it's a city issue as well, because obviously your education system is part of the calling card that gets people to move to our great town of Gary, Indiana, and want to live and raise their families there.
Absolutely.
Amen.
There are three components that businesses look at when they consider relocating or locating in a community.
Yeah.
The first of these is infrastructure,
right? Roads and streets.
The second is public safety. And the third is the school system,
right?
And so if we have any chance at all of bringing new employment possibilities to our community, the school system has to be part of it.
Dr. Paige, I want to ask you about this. You and I were talking just a little bit, obviously, about COVID and things of that nature. And when I was looking last week, the Hammond Area Career Center had an incident, and they had to kind of regroup now, because their attitude is that we're just going to be open because this is a vocational school, and to be honest with you, it'd just be better for the students and ourselves if we had people in person. We're going to try to work on protocols, distancing, and it didn't work out because it's just almost impossible to monitor how people go. What is the Gary Career Center up to, and what are they doing? Because as I thought about you and I thought about the Gary Career Center, because I know you and your predecessors were always talking about being very aggressive with that, going into other communities, letting people know that we're back open for business and you can get these kids here. So what is the Gary Career Center doing?
Yeah, so a couple points to that question is we are going to be opening the Gary Career Center in a hybrid model.
Okay.
For a couple reasons. You cannot receive your funding for future if you don't open in a hybrid model, period. And I'm going to talk a little bit further about that because that dovetails into a deeper conversation, but we will be opening hybrid, so students will be coming in 2 days a week because they have to have so many hours of in-person, hands-on instruction for their project-based learning for their certification.
Yeah.
The rest will be at home doing the synchronous instruction like the rest of the district, but 2 days a week they will be coming in, and again, we'll be following those protocols and hopefully be able to handle any situations as they may arise, as we talked about earlier. But as far as the funding goes, I want to talk just a minute about the decision that was, or the announcement that was made about the 85% funding for school districts that decided to go virtual.
Yeah.
I absolutely believe that this is a social injustice, and this is Paige McNulty talking.
Okay.
This is a social injustice towards Lake County and Marion County for those students who have the minority students who had to close and go virtually for safety reasons and to keep our students and staff safe, now we're being penalized and being told that if we don't open 100%, then we're only going to get 85% of our funding.
Yeah.
I think that's absolutely not okay.
Right.
I've been asking everybody who will listen to talk to the governor's office, write letters to your legislators, call, and we did that. We sent hundreds and hundreds of letters in the last couple of weeks downstate. We've worked with our teachers union.
Because I was going to ask, this seems like you've got to get the union. Because when I started hearing stuff about teachers and their concerns back before it was open. So where's the union on this?
Yeah, so they've been wonderful. They had a loud voice as well downstate trying to help us with this. I know that Hammond School District did a big rally and had the media there as well. And what happened was then the governor's office announced that they were going to push the ADM, which is our student count day, which is normally on September 15th, right in there. He announced that they're just going to push that back to December. Well, we appreciate that, but all that does is kick the can down the road past the election.
Yeah.
That does not help us. We need a decision now because if we don't know until December and then they say, well, we decided not to do anything, then theoretically all of these schools that have closed and are going e-learning could have to pay that money back.
Right.
That is absolutely not okay. We needed to close because of safety reasons.
Yeah.
We're doing the very best we can to educate students and keep our staff safe, our students safe, and their family members that they're going home to safe. So I need everyone to continue to push downstate that this is not okay. We need an answer now, not after November 3rd.
Now let me ask you this, Dr. Paige, because I think about this, and what are you hearing? Because this situation with the education has just upended everything. Obviously, I've been talking to some teachers who have found that the workload has kind of increased because there's just so much more preparation to keep these kids focused. But what are you hearing from parents? Because you literally right now have another economic situation potentially that's brewing with parents. Now parents who are doing the e-learning have to find different ways. I've read reports where one parent has decided that he or she is not going to work for their temporary future because somebody has to be at home with that child. It's affecting people economically. Are parents coming up and asking you and voicing an opinion one way or the other? Are they saying, please, Dr. Paige, give us an idea, when will you open the schools up? Because I think a lot of us on the outside have started to get a new appreciation for exactly what schools are. There's so much more than just facilities where you're sitting a kid in front of a desk and teach them something. Their daycares, in certain instances, their social services, their cafeterias, their nutritional places, and now this whole world has been upended. So what are you hearing?
Yeah, well, actually, when I made the decision and the announcement to go virtual e-learning, we had an overwhelming response of thank you. We feel relieved because we were worried about sending our students back to school. However, we understood that we still needed to come up with some help for families, and so we have partnered with the Boys and Girls Club, YWCA, Trinity, and many others, and we're sending students there and our staff members there to help with parents who still need to go to work, but we have some pods set up around the community so that we can assist with those students. And in addition, we have meals still being delivered across the community on Mondays and Wednesdays, so we're still feeding all the students. We've partnered up with Edgewater and Regional Mental Health and several other facilities to help afford some mental health services for families who might be feeling anxious or depressed during this time. And we have a lot of families taking us up on all of those services, and we'll continue to do that and add more as needed. Yeah,
I want to go to you, Pastor Gardner, because just like clockwork, she mentioned your church, and that makes sense because that's the kind of dudes you are.
Yeah, well, Trinity runs an academic pod. When we first this whole thing started to unfold back in probably May. We brought a number of members together, some educators, and what can we do and what do we need? And so we have an academic pod. I believe right now we service 16 students.
Nice.
We have a staff member from the Gary Community School Corporation who oversees it. We pay them little stipends. We've hired college students to be the age group supervisors. The school system provides the lunch. And they come in every day and they're in their class. We're just kind of supervising, and the teacher is teaching. And it is really working out well at the moment. Here's the thing that it tickled me a little bit. I saw a Facebook commercial in terms of how parents are dealing with this.
Yeah.
And there was a gentleman on this Facebook commercial. He was talking to his teacher, his child's teacher, and he was crying. And he was saying, I didn't know that this is what you did. I didn't know.
I saw that. I've seen things like that too. Yeah.
Exactly. I didn't know that this is what really happened. I didn't know that my child was like this kind of thing. So I think that one of the things that is happening here
Yes.
is that parents are discovering what it takes to educate your child.
Right.
And at some point, we're going to get past COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And there will be a new normal, but children are going to return to the classroom. But I think that new normal will be parents who will be supporting the education system when their child comes back to school.
I agree with you totally.
And so I think that's going to be a dividend of where we're headed.
I agree.
I can tell you, I got an unhappy grandpa at my house right now. He's looking forward to that. Yeah.
No, I agree because I think, and I don't think it was all malicious. I mean, you know, I just know that it was always just this mechanism. You have your kid, if they're in preschool maybe, but definitely K through 12, you drop them off, have at it, pick them up. Now, you gotta you see what's going on. You see what's all involved in this, keeping your kid attentive, keeping them fed, and all that kind of stuff. So I think there's a whole new appreciation for that. Yeah. Phone lines are open 219-885-1371. We're talking with the Gary Community School Corporation. Pastor Gardner is here in support of the referendum that's going to be on the ballot come November 3rd. In order to kind of fund, and once again, I had some people texting me asking if you could kind of go over some bullet points about how the money will be used.
Want to take that one?
Yeah, go ahead, Pastor.
All right. Well, there are three major areas in which we're going to be using the money. The first is for the first $1 million will be used to increase teacher salary and hopefully some level of staff compensation.
Permanently.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's not but can you imagine that you haven't had a raise in 12 years? I mean, that's
dedication.
Yeah.
I thought it was only preachers who went.
Oh, look at you.
But that you haven't had everything else has gone up but salaries. Mm-hmm. And the challenge is that we compete with other communities for the best, the most inspiring, and the most proficient educators available.
Right.
And so we have to have at least a salary that is competitive. Second, we talked about arts, and we talked about athletics, and we've talked about re-equipping science labs and that type of thing. And because these things have to be put together and investigated, there's a little list that we're trying to develop, but it'll come out over time.
Right.
But generally, that's about a change in the culture, right? Because what we have to do, particularly in the inner city, is change the culture for education.
Yes.
We have lost our reverence for it.
Yeah.
Right. I came up in a household where everything that went on in the house that I grew up in was education
related.
Right.
Yeah.
Dependent.
Yes.
I mean, like the worst thing that could happen in the house that I grew up in was a poor report card before Christmas. Right? I mean, you didn't know if you were going to get a pair of pajamas.
Right.
Right? Because you had not kept up your end of the household expectation. Mm-hmm. Right? And then my parents did all that they could to undergird our success academically.
Right.
We got to get back to that. Mm-hmm. And it has to start with a mindset that understands the importance of education. And so when we talk about the arts and we talk about sports, it is a travesty that in a city with such an illustrious sports history.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Gary Roosevelt won the state boys track title 10 years in a row.
I was on the team.
All right.
Yeah. I didn't go downstate, but I was on the team.
Okay. Lew Wallace High School's girls track team was the first one in the state of Indiana to win the women's state title 3 years in a row.
Yeah.
We've had athletes throughout the city, all of our schools, that have been able to perform and grow and create opportunities for the city or opportunities for themselves.
Yeah.
We presently live in a city that doesn't have a track facility suitable even to hold an event.
Yeah.
Okay, so can we fix that? Yes, we can.
Yeah.
How do we fix it? We reach in our pocket and we give a few cents a day to see that these things are changed. As head of the park board, we hire for the summer beach lifeguards.
Right.
We struggle to get lifeguards who actually come out of our city because we don't have a pool. we don't have a school in the city. We don't have a swimming program. We haven't had one for years in the Gary Public School system.
Right.
Why? Because the pool has remained unfixed for years. Right. So here's an area where we teach kids how to swim in the school system, and we can provide some summer jobs as lifeguards and other things. It's an area of opportunity for competition. Again, it's all about changing the culture.
Now, Pastor, let me ask you this, because there are people out there that are not in favor of the referendum. You're from here. You're invested in here. You're president of the park board. I've gotten to know you very well, so I know what you do out here in the community and really, literally how serious it is to you. I mean, the urban farming, I'm going to talk to you about it before you leave. You know that, don't you? But look, go out here and talk to the people that say, yeah, that's all fine and dandy, but what are they going to do with the money? Is this another just money grab by the state? And because you're hearing there's so much white noise out there that is being talked about. So I want you to go out here and talk to your fellow citizens and tell them why this is really the real deal.
Well, Jeffrey,
why you're convinced that this is the real deal.
Well, Jeffrey, I had this specific conversation with my 90-year-old mother. My mother.
She don't want you to raise her taxes.
My mother told me point blank before we had a conversation that she would not be supporting the referendum. And she cited a lot of what she heard on WLTH. Right? Now, I'm just being honest with you.
All right.
My mother didn't call in.
Hi, Mom.
But she's probably listening. She's not a kind to call in but she listens.
Yeah.
And she gets her news and information and insights from WLTH Radio.
Oh,
I mean, it's her morning show.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
So
thank you.
So I said, Mom, let's sit down and talk about that. And we talked about not about the advisory board and what they think and that they're not in charge.
Yeah.
We talked about other entities, and here's something I had to point out. And I don't want anybody to be angry with me, but we ought to tell the truth and shame the devil. We paint a picture that all was well and right and functional and progressive for our system before it was taken over.
Yeah.
And the fact of the matter is that was not the case.
Yeah.
That was not the case.
Yeah.
And so when I waded through all of that, and then I just began to talk to my mother about our children.
Yeah.
And if you don't think that we need some changes, and this is to any citizen in the city of Gary, I invite you to go for a drive out to Crown Point. I invite you to just take a look around Crown Point High School. I invite you to drive to Portage. Just get on Route 6.
Yeah.
Right? And pass Portage High School, which is almost 2 blocks long.
Yeah.
Right? I invite you to do that. I invite you to go to Lake Central. They're playing football.
Yeah.
Go to Lake Central. Take a look at the surface that they play on. And I tell you, go to Calumet. Right?
Yeah.
And take a look. And then ask yourself, do the children who attend school in the city of Gary deserve the same kinds of facilities, equipment, and opportunity as these entities? It's an easy ask.
And that's where the money's going.
And that's where the money's going.
And I wanted to echo as well that we are looking to have four of our schools become STEM certified schools within the next year or so,
Yeah.
with some of that money as well. So we'd be able to have students both at the elementary, middle school, all the way up to the high school level become STEM certified. So they'll open all sorts of options for them as far as careers and just learning about different jobs that might be available to them that they weren't otherwise aware of. So we are excited about that. That's where some of the money would go to as well. And also want to say this referendum isn't anything different than what most other school districts are going to be looking at. There was 18 referendums on the last ballot. 16 out of the 18 passed.
Yeah.
This isn't something that Gary Community Schools is looking to do. Unfortunately, because of the funding that's happening at the state level, this is the situation that most school districts find themselves in at some point. And so this is where we are as far as the funding for the Gary Community Schools.
Ox mode.
No, go ahead. You're good. Go ahead.
And so we are seeking something that most school districts at some point in their lifetime, some of them twice,
Right.
are going to be going forward. So we definitely are, interested in answering any questions that people might have.
All right, we got some phone calls coming in. Let's go to them. Caller, how you doing? You're on the news desk. We're talking with Gary Community Schools.
Hi, how you doing?
Hey.
Yes, I am for the referendum. Anyway, but what I would like to know though, in our schools right now, it is so hot. Do you think that there could be anything done as far as some of the schools, schools being air?
Get some AC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they are hot.
Okay.
They're very hot. I'm just trying to see. I don't know if anything from the referendum could go to help that even in the future. But especially some of our older buildings, and I do understand that we cannot build any buildings now because of the fact that we're in this under the emergency.
Right.
And then too, with this referendum, would this aid us in getting back to our regular school board and things being turned back over to the city?
All right. Good. Thank you very much.
Yes, I agree that some of our buildings are hot, especially on a day like today. So the answer is that the money to fix those schools, such as the chillers and the boilers that would need to be looked at, will come out of the 1065 money that we have received. And so we are already looking to send those out for bid.
Yeah.
We've hired an architect, so those plans have gone out, and we will be fixing those systematically. I know there's 3 schools in particular that need attention to their air conditioning immediately. So those are on the list to do.
Yeah.
On very extreme hot days like today, we have told those staff members that they can work from home, because I wouldn't want to be sitting in a classroom when it's 100 degrees in my room as well. But yes, those are slated to be fixed.
Right.
And then your other part of your question was, does this help us get back to local control? Yes, it does. So that's the end goal here with everything, so that if and when we get this referendum passed, it gets us, we have to have a balanced budget for 2 years.
Yeah.
That would start the clock ticking, and then it would go back to local control.
So after the referendum passed, then the clock starts, because they would have injected money back into the thing.
Once we start receiving the funds.
Okay,
Yes.
I got you. Let's go to the phones right now. Caller, how you doing? You're on the news desk. We're talking with the Gary Community School Corporation.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Hey.
Is that Reverend Gardner?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought I recognized the voice. So yeah, I'm going to support the referendum this time. I didn't support it last time, but I'll support it this time.
Thank you.
Because this time around we're getting information about what the money will be used for. Last time around they're like, we need $30 million, just give it to us, don't ask no questions. And they even came on the radio station, some of the school board members back then, and couldn't answer questions of what the money was for. So, but I think that anybody that's listening to this, Dr. McNulty is very credible, and Pastor Gardner is very credible. He always speaks his mind and says what he believes was right.
Well.
And I plan to support it. I hope everybody else in the city supports it. And one other thing, it's one person that always calls in. They're a member of the advisory board, and I would encourage people not to listen to that person, because when the takeover first happened, I was in a meeting with this person, and it was a public meeting, and the emergency manager at that time mentioned that they had acquired extra money to get computers and laptops for Westside High School. And this member of the advisory board stood up very angrily and said, why can't they just use pencils and paper? Why we got to spend money on computers? So I don't think that person's credible. And I hope everybody supports the referendum.
Thank you. And please leave your name so we can get you a yard sign.
Thank you. Let's go to the phones. Call, how you doing? You're on the news desk. Hello.
Hi, how you doing?
Hey. Turn your radio down. Hello, I need you to turn your radio down. Okay, you can call back. Call, how you doing? You're on the news desk.
Okay, good, Jeff. I just had a quick question about the AC system at the school.
Yeah.
To the young lady, are you all using chillers on the rooftop or just a regular AC unit?
We're using chillers.
Exactly. Okay. Well understood. And you said that they're not working?
We have some that need to be replaced.
Okay.
You volunteering?
Jeff, for me to do a chiller, it will cost a lot of money.
Oh, okay.
And it's not no $2 or $3. Bye, man.
All right, thank you very much. Phone lines are over 2 at 985-1371. We're talking with Dr. Paige McNulty, and of course Pastor Gardner is in-house, and we were talking referendum. Also getting an update about what's going on in the Gary Community Schools. We're into week 2, getting under our belt right now, and things like that. Have you all, and as you said, you've been waiting, you want some more leadership and some more instruction coming from downstate, and I actually saw where Dr. McCormick was kind of putting that out there as well. It's becoming very frustrating for you all, I can imagine, just to have this thing open-ended and things of that nature. But as far as, you know, when you look at Hobart, who's gone back, I think Hobart actually went back to school, and I know that other districts are on this little timeline, 9 weeks or something of that nature. What is the timeline here? Is it still just the first semester we're just going to go try it and stay with virtual learning, or what was it again?
Yeah, no, I never put a timeline
Okay.
on it. I'm just watching the numbers and working with Dr. Walker closely. And so as soon as the numbers show that they're on a downward trend
Yeah.
for, 10 days, then we'll have a conversation about reopening safely. But I never put a timeline on it
Okay.
because it could be 4 weeks, it could be 9 weeks.
Yeah.
But I just want to make sure that it's safe for everybody to return.
Now, I also want to ask you something. There was a young gentleman who I talked to on the show. He called and he was talking about a tutorial program that was put together by parents or the PTA over at Westside Leadership Academy. I thought it was very, I thought it was pretty cool that they were trying to lead the way and trying to educate themselves about exactly what's going on, because a lot of times we don't know exactly as much as our children do about working on the internet. It makes it hard to kind of oversee if they're getting the projects, the work, the worksheets or what have you from the teachers. Is the district putting together one? Does it already have a program to kind of go out here and educate the parents?
So the district did sponsor that on Friday.
Oh, okay.
We did it in collaboration
Okay.
with them, and we appreciate their partnership. And we're going to continue to do that. But we did do an online module and in person. So all this week we have some in-person pods happening.
Yeah.
That parents can sign up for and come in. And so if they want to do in person, we're doing small groups of 5 to 7 parents so they can learn how to actually log in and use the Chromebook and monitor their students' work. And we're going to continue to put some tutorial modules on our website so the parents can click on and watch those as well, because it is a new thing.
Yeah.
Even for me, my kids at home were using iPads, and those weren't compatible with the educational platform. So we had to switch to Chromebooks,
Yeah.
and those work differently than iPads. So I've had to learn that myself.
Now, I've been talking with somebody who is in another district, but this whole thing, as we said, is new. And one of the things that they were going through in the first week or so was bandwidth. It just, the teachers would be on for a second and, we'd be getting into a lesson, then it would just restart. And then there was this statement that came out from local providers like Comcast, and they weren't the only one, but they just said that it was getting overwhelmed and they were working on it. Yesterday, for instance, Zoom went off the air. I don't know if you knew that, for a number of hours. How are you all dealing with those kind of problems?
Yeah, we've so far have been okay with our bandwidth. So
Nice.
we have not been even close to using the maximum amount of our bandwidth. And I think that because we are staggering our synchronous instruction throughout the day, that's helping as well. So,
Yeah.
so far we have not had that issue. As you know, we did have the issue with the storm
Yes.
when school first started, but that was something that we couldn't control. But otherwise, all systems are a go. And I'm proud to say that I think that we were ahead of the curve with ordering the Chromebooks, because I know that many districts are still struggling even to get devices and webcams.
Yeah, they're not even in the stores anymore.
Right, and so all of our teachers, they've got webcams, every student's got a Chromebook, and we've got interactive smart boards in the classroom. So I think that we are well ahead of the game, and of course still learning how to use the system ourselves. And the teachers are doing lots of professional development weekly, and I'm very proud of their work. But I think we're ahead of the game.
Yeah, go ahead. That isn't the bandwidth though is an issue in the urban core. In terms of how our providers are deciding who gets fiber optic cable and who doesn't, or where it is put in and where it is not put in.
Right.
And I found this as we prepared to open the academic pod at Trinity. Call the provider, sit down, talk with the provider, and the provider says we can give you 1,000 gigabytes, right? And we're like, okay, great. Where do we sign? We signed, and he called me back a day later and said we can't do that. And I'm like, what do you mean you can't do that? We can't do it because the area where you're located is not set up for it.
Right.
And so I asked, well, where is it set up for that? Right. And of course, in terms of community-wise, outside of the urban core, you can get it. And so that's an area that we're going to have to take a look at, and maybe another battle we'll be fighting, because we need the same technology that the suburban community.
And the rural people are going through the same thing as well. I mean, I've been hearing some things that they've been having some challenges. So you're right.
And I think to piggyback on what you said earlier, I think that when the cities got strong fiber and the schools got strong fiber, we have a better platform to get those services. So strong school equals strong community, and vice versa. So if we partner and use our resources together, we can get more fiber in the city.
Yeah, let's go to the phones. Call, how you doing? You're on the news desk. Hey. Hello.
Hello?
Yes, you're on.
How are you?
We're fine. Speak up a little bit so we can hear you.
Hi, my name is Keisha Pardue, and I was calling from Girl Scouts, and I wanted to partner with Gary Community Schools to offer some social emotional learning for some of the students in your school corporation, because I think that's going to be very vital for the children coming back into e-learning, and giving them some of the tools to help them be equipped, some of the parents, some of the tools to help them be equipped.
I like that. I was a Boy Scout and a Cub Scout and a Wolf. I was all that stuff.
My kids are too. My boys are both Boy Scouts. We welcome your partnership. Thank you.
Can you leave your call the office and leave your number so you don't put it on the air, because they want to take it down. 885-1370.
885-1370. So call and leave my number there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love the Scouts.
Jeffrey, one of the things that I do want to do, though, is that to explain that I am not here on my own volition.
Okay.
That I serve as the civic chair of the Baptist Ministers Conference of Gary and Vicinity. That our pastor is Reverend Corey Jackson of the New Shiloh Baptist Church of Gary, Indiana. The Baptist Ministers Conference of Gary and Vicinity has approximately 40 member churches and represent roughly 10,000 parishioners across the city.
There are 40 Baptist churches here. That's another show. Oh my goodness. Go ahead, please.
So I come as their representative today, and not just on my own.
Right. And of course, you all were a group, and you started off by saying, because I think some people came in late, that you all had a meeting and you came in with questions, and you went down, and as you said, you didn't think that by the time you were done and had your information, you didn't think they were asking for enough.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, there are things we need to do that haven't been done in a very long time. Again, we have to change the culture as it relates to how we educate and our reverence for education. I'm glad the Career Center is going back up, but we need a conversation about how we connect that to middle school.
Right.
When I was in middle school, you took shop.
It was there.
Right?
Yeah.
And you had to build a box and use a battery, and you knew AC and DC current, and ultimately...
I used to just pass by that class. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Ultimately, you had to make the bell ring, and a small amount of woodworking and some other things. So we have to build an introductory component.
Yeah.
One of my son-in-laws is an electrician by profession.
Oh.
He's a 6-digit guy.
Okay.
Right? That started with making the bell ring in the 8th grade.
They did.
And so, we have to build that component so that we can, those aren't, we do craft jobs a disservice when we present them as something less than a college education. If you don't go to college, then perhaps you can do this. And that is wrong.
No, it's not the truth. I was absolutely about to go with that and go to. I was at a seminar. I was watching one and a part of it, and that's exactly what these educators were talking about. And you know, when we're looking at some of the majors and the student debt and things of that nature, and let's just be honest, all of us have been on university campuses. It's very nice to go out here and get a lot of those education and read those books and major in some of these majors, but it doesn't translate to a practical living when you come out here. And so a lot, and this conversation was about the trades and getting those more accentuated in the district. And I want to ask you, that's why you and your predecessors, I'm assuming, have been really trying to tout the Gary Area Career Center.
That's right.
Yeah. And so is this part of the marketing once the referendum? You plan on kind of rolling that out? Because I think the pastor makes a good point. I think, you know, when I was coming up, the Career Center was there. It was an alternative path. You knew what was out there. But I don't think people really realize that you can get you a set of real skills that can make you mobile, and you can live anywhere in the world with some of these skills that you can get just by finishing at the Career Center.
Yeah. Our goal is to absolutely grow and market and get those kids in. We've already started. This is the first year we'll have 8th graders who are going to be starting. And they started actually this past summer. We had 60 or so 8th graders who took the introductory classes so that they can start early, so they understand some options. So that if you wait till you're a junior, you're kind of boxing yourself in. We want them to be able to start early so they leave there with a credential or certificate and move on to a well-paying job, because there's all sorts of pathways towards that.
Yeah.
As I explained earlier in many shows, we've added 3 or 4 new pathways just this year with aviation and EMS and all that. So
and then the governor came out with something, didn't he, about a year or so ago, where he created a pathway. When you get into high school, you got to make a decision if you're going to go one way or the one direction or the other, which I think is good as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, that ultimately, we have to develop a program that has a seamless transition from study to work, so that, when you walk across the stage, you get 2 things: you get your high school diploma, and you get your apprenticeship card. That the graduation exam ought to be the apprenticeship entrance exam for whatever area of craft work you have studied. Mm-hmm. And so that the two come together. You ought not go through the program, do well in the program, and then have to jump through hoops in order to become an apprentice in the field of work and study that you desire. The transition must be seamless, so that if you go through this program, you matriculate in the program, you learn what you're supposed to learn, and you come out proficient, that your entrance into an apprenticeship program that matches your study be automatic.
And you're starting to see that. I think they're doing it over in Porter County or something, because I know there was this house that was going to Chesterton High School, went to Valpo, and then the students in building sciences were working on it. By the time it was all said and done, they got to one school, there was a house, and then they all went and put it somewhere where their family moved in. So I guess they're doing stuff like that. Let's get our last phone call, and then I'm going to give you the opportunity, Dr. P, to go out and give us some announcements. Caller, how you doing? You're on the news desk. We're talking with Gary Community Schools.
Hello, how you doing today?
Hey.
My question is, like some of the pastors, okay, a lot of them are non-profit. A lot of them have houses under the church's name. Would they be still paying money to the referendum? Is that?
I can answer that question.
I mean, hey, if you don't know, you ask.
It's a fair question.
Fair question.
Good question.
Not only, now again, we live all over Northwest Indiana, and so do our parishioners.
Okay.
I have children and parents who live in every
go ahead.
in Lake County. We live in every part of Lake County. But not only are those of us who have residences in the city, and I am one, not only are we willing, our churches are willing to write the check to support the referendum. And so whatever it is, if it's that 16 cents a day or 6 cents a day, or I don't have the numbers in front of me, if it's $68 a year or $168 a year, we're willing to sit down, the members of the Baptist Ministers Conference, of Gary and Vicinity and the churches we represent are willing to support this referendum with our own assessments.
All right, let's get these last two calls quickly because we got to get ready to get out of here. Caller, how you doing? You're on the news desk.
What's going on, Jeff?
What's going on?
And see, you got emergency management.
Yeah, the manager. Yeah, of the Gary Community Schools.
Oh, okay. This referendum. I mean, what does that consist of? I mean, I know it's about money. You know, you can't do nothing without money.
Okay.
Money has all things. But what I'm saying is, now with these children, man, I got 7 grand. You know.
Yeah.
And
Well.
and I want to know, man.
Well.
Are we going with this online thing at home, or how are they gonna do that?
All right. Well, thank you very much, Corey. I think, as you said, it's open-ended, and when things that you're working with the health commissioner, correct, and looking for a downtick in COVID-19, and then possibly getting
as soon as
students
it's safe, we'll have those students and staff back at school. I do want to say, first, I want to thank Pastor Gardner and his colleagues for supporting the referendum. That's a huge endorsement, and we appreciate their trust in the Gary Community Schools. But I also want to point people, such as many of the callers that have called in, to our website, because we've added the tax calculator to our website. So you don't have to take Paige McNulty's word for it or Pastor Gardner's word for it. Go on to the tax calculator for yourself, plug in your personal information. It'll tell you exactly how much of a tax rate it'll be per your household for the year, so that you can get that exact dollar amount. And you can find that at Gary Community Schools on our website.
Yeah.
If you also have any questions, you can look onto our info at garycsc.k12.in.us. And again, I'm welcoming anybody who wants me to come and speak with them, any group. I will be happy to do so to answer their questions.
Now, how do they contact you in this COVID-19?
They can call my office and speak to my administrative assistant, Irma Patton, and she'll schedule it for us.
Excellent. All right. Tell you what, we got one last call's been holding. Caller, how are you doing? Quickly.
Good afternoon. I heard
Your radio's up.
McNulty saying earlier that there are lots of students.
Yeah, go ahead. Hello? No, I guess she dropped. It wasn't us. With that being said, we'll get ready to wrap it up. I want to thank all of you for coming in today. Always good to see you, Pastor Gardner, as well as see Whit in the house, and then, of course, Dr. P. It's always good to have you here.
Thank you.
We appreciate you, and we'll look forward to talking to you next time.
Thank
You'll be here next Tuesday.
Yes, I will.
Yeah, there you go.
All
So
right,
back to
2 weeks in a
back.
row.
There you go. All right, everybody. With that being said, Tommy Latrice.